Studio Fi by Fi. Removing microphone stands and cables from the tracking floor increases valuable studio floor space. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built an overhead rig for flying microphones. I was constantly bumping into my drum overhead mic stands and struggling to position them correctly. Once I get the mics clamped in place, they stay precisely where I want them. They do not drift, they do not sag, I do not have to worry about tipping any mic stands over, destroying very expensive microphones. The entire project, including the rig, the clamps, and the cables, was less than the price of one high-end stand. Okay, so here's some of the stuff you're going to need. You're going to need one 4-foot black threaded pipe, 1/2 inch, two 2-foot black threaded pipes, 1/2 inch, two 90-degree elbows for 1/2 inch black threaded pipe, two floor flanges for 1/2 inch black threaded pipe. All pipes should be threaded on both ends. I used structural screws to attach the rig to the ceiling joists. These are a little more expensive, but they are very strong. After an extended research into clamps, I decided on 1/2 inch pipes so I could use any mic or drum stand clamp. Most of the more heavy-duty clamps I found will work with a 1/2 inch pipe. Here are all the pipes laid out, pretty much how we're going to put them together. I chose the links to the pipe in the video because they are usually available pre-cut and pre-threaded right off the shelf. You'll need to adjust the links to accommodate your own studio needs. The supplier can usually cut custom links and then thread it for you. If you have the yard cut your pipe and thread it, it will be absolutely saturated in cutting oil. The pipes and fittings are coated in oil to keep them from rusting. They'll also coat them in oil for the cutting and threading process. You'll want to wash these off. Otherwise, that'll make the pipes very slick and the clamps will hold. I use dishwashing soap as it's a degreaser. You'll always want to add a bit of machine oil to the pipe threads before assembly. This will keep them from rusting and seizing. You might be tempted to assemble this thing as you go along, as in screw the floor flanges into the ceiling joists and then the downward pipe and then the angles. But at some point, you will hit a spot where the threads will work against each other and you will not be able to proceed. So you have to put this thing together beforehand for it to work properly. The reason I chose the black steel pipe is because it's a very common product available at almost any hardware store that has a plumbing section. You'll want to keep spinning the pieces around until they're very tight. This is going to be holding some very expensive equipment. You don't want to over-tighten these pipes though, because eventually you can split the cast iron 90-degree angles. Each floor flange should have 4 holes total. They'll be at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. You'll want to get 2 of the holes on each flange lined up parallel with the top bar. This will put everything in line when you screw it to the ceiling joist. Here is a simplified diagram of the framing inside of a room. For this project, we're going to be tying into the ceiling joists. Those are the ones going horizontally across the top. We want to tie into a ceiling joist because they are strong enough to hold the weight of the rig and the microphones attached to it. You're going to need a drill. You're going to need a drill bit that's a slightly less diameter than the screws you've chosen to use. You're going to need a bit for the screws you've chosen. You're going to need a stud finder that has the ability to detect electrical wires, and you're going to need a pencil for making your marks. You're going to use the stud finder as shown here to find the edges of the ceiling joist. You want to drill directly in the center of these 2 marks. The reason you'll want a stud finder that has the ability to detect electrical wires is because electricians run electrical wires along studs and joists. If you do not have absolute confidence in drilling near electrical wires, do not proceed without professional assistance. You could get electrocuted. In this example, I'm using the stud finder and it has detected electrical wires on one of the sides of my ceiling joist. Always drill pilot holes in your projects. The screws will go in more easily, it makes for a stronger connection, it keeps your board from splitting, and you definitely do not want to split the ceiling joist in our little project. The squares you're seeing are made of plywood. I actually added them just because I was making this video and I couldn't get this stand to stay upright for the photos. And that gave me the idea that if it's helping them stay upright, it might also add some stability on the ceiling. I purchased these as a supplementary clamp for most of my mic stands. That way I could have two mics on one stand, such as an over and an under for my snare. It has a locking nut for your microphone. It has a toothed locking mechanism for adjusting the angle. And it clamps very firmly onto the pipe. Here is a shot of them being used to hold the small diaphragm condensers I use as drum overheads. And the final product. Between mic stands, camera tripods, light stands, cables, instruments, and everything else in the room, it starts feeling very crowded very fast. Moving these mics off the floor and flying them from the ceiling has really made this room feel a lot more professional. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.